If you're tired of emptying the bucket on your dehumidifier, I have the solution. So if you're like me, you're tired of emptying the bucket when it's full, there is a better solution than just emptying the bucket into your sink or into the toilet. We can go ahead and take the dehumidifier and actually plug it directly to a drain, and that's what we're going to do in this video. So you can see in the back of my unit there's a round hole. So this is for the access for the hose, and there's a little knockout that you have to remove. I just did that. You can see it right on the floor, and this is going to allow you to put this tube here that's included with your unit. So sometimes it's in a bucket, sometimes it comes in a piece of plastic. Most people don't use it because they just go ahead and dump the bucket when it's full. You might also just have the threads in the back of the unit that accepts the hose, and you don't need that tube, but either way you should consult the manual. On my particular unit, which is the LG dehumidifier, I have to insert this tube, so that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. So once I insert it through, what it's going to do is it's going to connect to the hose on the other side. This is where the bucket goes, and that hose right there, that black hose, is where the water drips down to the bucket, but you can see I connected the tube, and you want to make sure that that arrow is up, and then it's going to lock in place. Once this locks in place, the other end of it where the bucket used to be, it's going to go ahead and attach to that tube. So the water would normally fall into the bucket, it's going to fall into the tube. And then on the back of the unit, you just want to make sure that it's not loose. And you can see here, mine has an arrow pointing up, and that's what I'm going to do. And it locks in place. The other side of that tube is connected to the black hose that normally would drip the water into the bucket. On my particular unit, I need a 3.5-inch hose. Typically on the dehumidifiers, that's what you're going to need, and this is a washing machine hose. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut one of the ends, because you can see that there's two ends on there. We really only need one. The other side of the tube is just to drip the water out, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that end off, and one of the ends is going to go ahead and plug into the back of the unit, that white tube that I put in there. That white tube is threaded, and it's going to allow us to go ahead and screw that hose in there, that washing machine hose in there. Now, all these products that I'm using are in the description if you need it. Check out the description, click on the link if you need to buy it. Again, the other end of the hose, I'm going to cut it off. Now what we need to do is find the drain. Usually you could use the washing machine drain, but really the unit has to be at the same level for this to work. So what I recommend you do is you get a pump. This pump is in the description. This is actually the pump that I use for my on-demand hot water, so you might already have a pump. If you do, all you got to do is drain it into that pump, and that pump will take care of the water. So basically what I'm going to do is remove this black cover and then place the hose in there, and it'll go ahead and drip all that condensation into that pump, and then that pump is just going to send all that water to the washing machine drain and drain it out that way. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the cover that we have here, and then all we're going to do is take our washing machine hose that we bought. We're going to go ahead and remove the end, because we don't need the end and it's not going to fit there. And then once we remove the end, we'll put the hose right through that hole, and everything is just going to drip into that pump, which then is going to go ahead and remove the water for us. Now that I cut off the end of the hose is going to fit into that round opening on the pump. And you can see how I have it in there. It fits just fine. And you want to go ahead, you want to make sure the other side of the hose on the back of the unit is secure. I'm actually going to go ahead and tie it down with some wire ties, just so it doesn't vibrate, it doesn't move, and it doesn't drip water from the back. It's extremely important that this hose is connected securely, that it's connected tight, or else you're going to have water dripping out. So now that this one is tight in the back, I'm going to go ahead and check the other one as well. So this is where the condensation drips into the hose, and normally would fall into the bucket, but now it's going to go out of that tube into the black hose that we just installed, and then out to the pump. So I'm going to go ahead and wire tie it as well, and you can do this on your unit. It might be a little bit different. Again, check the manual. You want to make sure these connections are tight, and we're going to go ahead and turn it on, and we're going to test it. So one thing I did notice when I was done with this is how I coiled up the black hose, as you can see there. You don't want to do that, and that's not going to work, because really what you want to do is the hose coming out of the back needs to sit higher than the hose going into the pump. So you can see that I actually cut it, and then I kind of looped it there. So I went ahead and did this the first time, and then I went and monitored it to see if it was working. So you can see what I did here. I shortened the hose, made a little loop. The next day the water came out of the pump and it wasn't working, and it was because I shoved the hose way too deep into the pump, and the pump was not operating the right way. So what I ended up doing again was actually shortening the hose. You can see that if I test the pump, you can see that the water is being let out into the drain from the pump, but you got to be careful of how the hose is inserted into the pump. I actually ended up cutting more of that black hose that you see there, the washing machine hose, and I monitored it for several days, and then that problem went away. So When you install this hose, don't just install and forget it. Make sure that for the first few days that you monitor it, that you make sure that the water's not coming out where it's not supposed to be coming out, that your pump is working. Although if you have a floor drain, you don't have to worry about the pump. You just go ahead and put the hose into the floor drain and you're ready to go. You can see that my humidity is going down. I no longer have to empty the bucket. The bucket is always empty, as you can see here. And by the way, you do have to have the bucket inside the unit or the unit is not going to operate. But I no longer have to empty that bucket, and I never have to hear those beeps again. It just goes into the washing machine drain and it takes care of itself. It removes the humidity when it needs to, and it does it all on its own. If this video has been informative, put a like, subscribe, share, and we'll see you on the next one.